So God's Pocket, you just heard from Christina Hendricks and writer-director John Slattery as well. What's your take on the film, James?
Well, I think first things first, it's another great performance from Philip Seymour Hoffman. Obviously, we remember many of his great, I would call them oily performances. The Talented Mr. Ripley, The Master, when he's a smoothie, not a great guy. But I think he was also brilliant at playing dishevelled characters, ramshackle characters, desperate characters, and that's Mickey. That's the Philip Seymour Hoffman that we see in God's Pocket. He's not perfect, but he has very human flaws, does Mickey, with which you sympathise. And good performances all round, actually. I mean, John Turturro, again, one of those guys, you see him on the cast list, you think, whatever the rest of the film is like, I know that he's going to have some real charm about him, and he does. Richard Jenkins, Eddie Marsan, Caleb Landry Jones is not a big role, but he's pretty messy in it. And Christina Hendricks, and all of it is enjoyably sweary and smoky and sozzled.
Gritty.
Very gritty. The area is very gritty. But there is a real sense of community in the area as well. It is crime-ridden and there's a lot of poverty. It's somewhere that people dream of leaving. But there is also a bond among the locals. And in that respect, this might sound a little strange, but it reminded me of the first Rocky, actually, which is also set in Philadelphia, because it was about the blue-collar community and their hopes and their dreams and their bonds. I think where it doesn't work so well, that stuff works well. Where it doesn't work so well is when the comedy comes in. Very black comedy, not that often, but when it does, it jars a little, and it feels like it cheapens the mood a little and makes things a bit uneven. And there is one storyline which is a love story, really, between Richard Jenkins, who's playing a local journalist, and Christina Hendricks. As good as they are, it feels a little underdeveloped. And because this is based on a book, it's one of those situations where you think, in the book, this probably was over several chapters and it worked because they took the time to describe it and to make it feel right. And in the movie, not so much.
Yeah, and the same with Caleb Landry Jones's character as well, Leon, in terms of his personality.
Yeah.
And how he is, the way he is, I guess, as well.
So there are a few glitches in it about tone, and there are glitches in it about some of the characters and their storylines. But where it really works is when it focuses on Philip Seymour Hoffman and his desperation and his issues and his problems. And I think it does enough of that to be, generally speaking, successful. There's a griminess there that's appealing.
I remember lucky enough to interview Philip Seymour Hoffman when he directed as well, starred in Jack Goes Boating a couple of years back as well. And he was a tricky interview. He wasn't an easy man to speak to in terms of, trying to get him to enthuse what, he seemed very private and quite shy as well and stuff, but an absolute privilege to have had the time to spend with the man.
Not a showbiz personality, didn't want any part of that world and let the performances do the talking. Heath Ledger was another person like that as well. Hated doing the interviews, but you put a camera on him and give him a great script and then totally blossoms and gives these powerhouse performances.
Loved seeing Eddie Marsan in this film as well. Great performance.
Always great.
Yeah, always great.